I'm just getting ready to make biscuits. Good morning. I hope everybody had a good night's sleep. I am getting ready to make homemade biscuits, and I promised you guys I was gonna show you guys how to make homemade buttermilk biscuits, and some homemade sausage gravy and scrambled eggs. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna do it all together, I am gonna do it all together, but I'm gonna video it separately. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to have to position my camera a little different for the gravy. So I don't want the camera to be like jumbled around. Until I learn how to edit all this, I'm probably going to be doing it this way. So I am getting ready to make my homemade buttermilk biscuits, and it is what, 6:30 in the morning. It's maybe 7. I've been up since 5. These babies don't let me sleep, so I'm tired. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, this is the simplest thing, okay? I'm going to take, you can use any kind of fat that you want, okay? Like Crisco solid fat that you want. Crisco or lard or whatever you want to use. I use butter because with my experimenting making biscuits, butter works the best for me. So, and I like the taste of it. So, y'all know I'm a Butterton. If anybody knows what a Butterton is. So what I'm doing is I am taking a cold block of butter, and I am going to cut it into small little cubes. And this is just going to help me work it into my flour. Much easier than just putting a whole block in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it in my bowl with some flour, some self-rising flour. And I am just going to work it all in. Now I'm just cutting this up. It's pretty small. It ain't got to be perfect. This is for my benefit, because I have I hate to speak it over myself, but I'll just say it this way. I've been diagnosed with carpal tunnel, so my hands have not worked like easily. And of course you hear my babies in the background. All right. So, I've cut up all my butter here. I'm going to set it to the side. I'm going to open my buttermilk. I'm just going to set it to the side. And now I'm going to stand up. And this is my self-rising flour. And I got my bowl here. And by the way, I have set I preheated my stove to 450. And I have a cast iron skillet in the oven with 3 tablespoons of butter melting, so that whenever I get ready to put my biscuits in, I'm just going to put my biscuits in on top of that melted butter so it gets that good crust to it, okay? So I'm using a half a cup measuring. Now I'm not going to measure this out perfectly, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be about 2.5 cups. Okay, you may have more biscuit dough left over. You may not have enough to fill it up. But I'm just going to do about, this is a half a cup measurement, so I'm going to do about 5 of these, maybe 6 for good measure. So most of you know, Southern cooks don't usually measure anything unless the recipe calls for a specific measure. I always say when you're baking is more of a science, so you really do need to have some kind of idea of how much you're putting in. I say cooking's an art, baking's a science. Now the reason I use self-rising flour is because it already has the rising agents in it, so I don't have to put that in there. It already has the baking soda or powder, I think, and salt, so I don't have to put that in here. I'm just gonna do it like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check my oven first to see if this is melted yet. And it has, so I'm gonna take my pan out of the oven before my butter burns and just put it to the side. You hear it sizzle? Can you hear it sizzle? So that's my butter, okay? I will probably give it a spray of just cooking spray just to make sure my biscuits don't stick. So I'm just going to take my bowl and I'm just going to make a little well down in my flour, okay? This is going to be where I put my butter. And I'm going to start with my butter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little at a time. And I'm just going to start kneading it into the dough. Into my flour. And this is just going to make it easier for me before I put my buttermilk in there. You just knead it real good until you don't have any chunks anymore. You're just going to have buttery flour. So that's what I'm doing. This is real easy. You don't want to overwork your dough once you get your buttermilk in there, but right now you got to get that mixed in real good. And I just do a little at a time, and this takes me a little while because my hands don't like to work real well. I hate to speak that over myself because I know Jesus can heal me, you know, and I believe I'm already healed by the stripes of Jesus. So I should say it like that. I may have to just take a little rest every now and then because it's working my hands pretty good. So I've got that worked in pretty good, so I'm going to add a little more. This is just a stick of butter. I'm going to get a little bit more of my flour and work it in. If you have I don't know what they call that. Now, I should know, but I don't. I'm terrible at remembering stuff like this, but it's a little cutter that you can. I need to buy one, but it would work a whole lot better if I did. I'm going to use both hands. Give the other one a rest. And I'm just working this in here. Y'all need to be quiet in there. I'm videoing. And try to get a lot of that flour in there. You want to make sure it's all mixed in. Alright. And by the way, I'm not using gloves because cooking for my family. Now, if I was cooking for a bunch of people, I wouldn't be as casual about it. I'm just going to put the rest of this butter in here and just work it in. And then we'll be ready to add our buttermilk and get this show on the road. Let's see. And then once I get my biscuits in the oven, I can start making my gravy. You always want to put your biscuits in the oven first because they're going to take a little while to cook. And by the time you get everything else cooked, your biscuits should be ready. Again, I'm just working this in here until I got all my flour mixed in with it. And also, I've got all the chunks of butter kind of blended in there. Y'all be quiet. These boys, they didn't want to go back to bed whenever me and Catherine got up. They were sleeping in the living room. I moved Daniel's mattresses into the baby's room. We're still waiting to get the babies a bed. They sleep with me, and I don't get much sleep because of it. Okay, I think that's in there pretty good. Let me just give it one more once over. And let me just show y'all. I've mixed all that butter in there. It's okay if it ain't all just real fine. Okay, let me wash my hands for a minute. I can't stand to have anything on my hands. So making biscuits is like, it's just one of those things. I like homemade biscuits, and I don't mind making them, but I really don't like to have flour or anything on my hands. I don't know why I'm like that, but I am. All right. Okay, set this to the side. Look, I've got, if you have an apron, wear an apron. But to be honest with you, I don't hardly ever wear one. I got in a bad habit of whenever I worked at the restaurant that I worked at, of when I wore an apron and I was in a hurry and I washed my hands just to wipe my hands on me. So I got in a bad habit of doing that. And so every now and then I catch myself doing that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is 3/4 of a cup. I'm not gonna measure this in any way. I'm just gonna make me a little well, just like before. All right, I got me a little well down in there. And now I'm just going to take some buttermilk. I'm going to measure, I will measure it just so for you guys, but typically I wouldn't. I'm going to start with 1/4 of a cup. I'm sure I'll use more. Buttermilk is really thick. We'll do 1, 2/4, which is 1/2 of a cup. Okay, I'm going to get in my flour over here, and I'm going to put a little flour on my hands so that I don't start getting Hulk hands. Is she okay? So what I'm going to do is just start working that really gently, pulling some of that flour down. It's okay, baby. It's part of being a mother of little babies. I'm sure she's fine. She ain't bleeding. All I'm doing is I'm just kind of working. I'm kneading just a little. I'm not trying to overwork my dough, because if I overwork my dough, then what it's going to do is make the biscuits not soft. So I'm going to add a little bit more buttermilk. I'm just going to start adding. That's about another 1/4 of a cup. And I'm just working it in here. And you want to get it to the consistency of stiff mashed potatoes, maybe. I'm going to add just a little more. Another 1/4 of a cup. Or a little less, really. I'm trying not to overwork it. I'm going to add just a little bit more. That wasn't quite 1/4 of a cup. Just to get it to the consistency that I want. I'm almost done. Some people roll their biscuits out and then they cut them with a cookie cutter or a biscuit cutter or what have you. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop my biscuits. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me get this off my hands. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of flour and I'm just going to just put it on top of my biscuit mixture. And I'm going to put a little bit more on my hands so that I can start rolling this out. I've just got, this is what it looks like. Okay? I'm not going to overwork it anymore. I'm just going to take, depending on how big I want my biscuits, I'm going to take, hang on, I'm going to move my pan over here so that you guys can watch me do it. Excuse me. I'm going to give it a little spray so it don't stick. Right on top of that butter. Okay. I'm just going to pat it a little bit. It's going to be crumbly, and I want my biscuits like that. I want it to stick together, but in this case, since I'm making gravy and biscuits, I'm just going to let them be kind of crumbly. So, you see, it's not perfect, and I don't want it to be overworked. It's burning me. And I'm just going to sit it right down in there. Right down in that butter. Let me put this down here so y'all can see. Sorry. Okay. Get a little bit more flour on my hands because I don't want it to stick to me. Alright. And I'm just kind of, I'm not doing it like Play-Doh. I'm just kind of molding it. Right there. See what I'm doing? And I'll turn it a little. Alright, looks good. It's a little thick. If you feel like you've got it a little too thick, just take some away or add some to it if you need to. There we go. A little bit more flour. Look, I get messy. I'm a messy cook. But I try to clean as I go. If you clean as you go, you don't have as big a mess to clean up. And I'm the only one that cleans up. So, although I do have somebody that helps me in my house once a week, which is great when we have the money to do it. Look, I'm just real. We got 3 kids. My husband's basically the only one working, so I homeschool Daniel and the other 2. One goes to preschool, and one stays here while me and Daniel homeschool. All right, let me squeeze these in here. Almost done here with my dough. See what I'm doing? I'm not mashing it. I'm not kneading it. I'm just forming it. All right. Okay, I got a little dough left over. That's fine. I'm going to wash my hands again. I'm really going to wash them really good right now. So, get all that off of me for now. Now, I'm going to show you. Okay. There they are. They're ready to go in the oven. I've got my oven set for 450 degrees. And I'm going to let them cook for maybe 20 minutes or so. But I'm going to look in on them about 15 minutes and see how they're doing. They should rise real easy since it's, cooked with self-rising flour. They should just cook them till they're golden brown. You may want to flip them part of the way through so they don't get too dark on the bottom. It's up to you how you want to do that. I like a good crust on mine, so I'm I don't know. Sometimes I flip them, sometimes I don't. But I'm just going to stick them in the oven, and I'm going to get started on my gravy, okay? All right. I'll see you shortly.